Hello everyone, and welcome to another video review of a Fantasy Grounds module. This one is a review of an adventure, and it's actually a series of adventure, Quests of Doom Volume 1 by Frog God Games for 5th edition. And this is actually the adventure pack that I purchased off Fantasy Grounds that gave me the idea to start doing some of these videos. There are a number of things with it that I wish I would have known before I got the module that I'll get into as I give the review. So again, the main purpose of these reviews is not so much to go into the details of the adventure and the quality of the adventure, although I'll touch on that, but really more to focus on what I think is important, at least to me, and I hope to you as well, and what I look for in Fantasy Grounds modules. So in this case, it's interesting. The Fantasy Grounds module does not have a thumbnail or a cover, at least that I could find. So I pulled up the Fantasy Grounds store so you could see what it looked like. So Quest of Doom, there's actually 12 adventures, a number of cool authors. This is actually by Necromancer Games, which was acquired by Frog God Games in 2012. So let's get into the adventure. So again, the typical price is $19.99, so let's say $20. It's on sale right now for $15, but by the time you listen to this video, it's always possible that it's back up to $20, so we'll just assume $20. But for 12 adventures, that's a little less than $2 per adventure, so that's pretty good in my view, at least. And I actually ran Dead from Above, and I'll comment on that a little bit as we get into this. So let's just rip through very quickly the adventures. So the Noble Rot, and that's for 5th to 8th level. So for now, I'm just going to comment on the levels. And so this one's for 5th to 8th level. Hidden Oasis is from 7th to 9th level. Ra's Evil Grin is at least 11th level, so pretty high level adventure. Sorcerer's Citadel, at least 9th level. The Dead from Above, the one I ran, level 6 to 8. And this, just to give you a sense for the amount of time some of these take, this one took me 3 days. I think it was 2.5 days, or sessions, I should say. Probably 4 to 5 hours each, so pretty good amount of quantity. The next one is Emeralds of High Fang, and this one just has a party of high level. Bad Moon Rising, levels 4 to 6. Death in Drigolas, and that's level 6 to 8. Deep in the Veil, and this is for 1st level. This is the only one that's for 1st level characters. Urtep's Dish, 6th to 8th level. And the Pyramid of Amra, which is the at least 12th level. And then finally, Sewers of the Underguild. And this is at least 11th level, and for characters up to 15th level. So pretty much geared towards higher level, I guess I would say mid to higher level adventures. So that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about the story setup first. So if you look at the table of contents, that's great. It has the adventures. The one thing that I thought was odd is if I click into the Noble Rot, and you can have a good amount of background, you have all the links down here. So the first link I would expect to see if I click the forward button would be the notes for the GM, but it goes straight to the next adventure. Small thing, but in my mind, I kind of like how if you look at something like Princes of the Apocalypse by WotC, an official module. So this is the table of contents. Let's start with Chapter 1, Rise of Elemental Evil. So if you scroll down to this one, same thing, story links, and I would expect to see using this books next, and that's exactly what it goes to. So just a minor thing, but again, those things are helpful to me as a DM. I really appreciate it when modules are set out really well and easy for me to use. So let's pull up a map. So this is the map of the Noble Rot. A couple things. First thing for me is that 1 square equals 20 feet. That's an issue. If it was 10 feet, I could put on my own Fantasy Grounds grid and make it half of a square, and that's workable. But 20 feet, if I drag this on now to the grid that was already placed for Fantasy Grounds, it takes up that whole 20-foot tile. And that's not what I would expect to see. I would expect this to be a 5-foot grid or maybe 10. So you can even see as you zoom in closer, you can start seeing the overlap. I understand you can unlock it, you can move the grid, do all those things, and that's fine. But I prefer to have these all lined up and ready to go when I see them. Probably more significantly, there is no player map, and I think that's consistent for most of these adventures that I've looked at. So you have all the letters. You can certainly shade it or mask it, I should say. But you're going to either have to bring this into GIMP, which I did from Dead from the Above, I brought the maps into GIMP and took out all of the letters and all that, but I just don't feel like you should have to do that. Kind of feels like, great PDF, really good modules. I love the quality of the modules, but the Fantasy Grounds conversion seemed like an afterthought to me. That's my overall comment. I also don't like, I think this is kind of the old school where you used to put kind of like the treasure a link to the story, and a link to the encounters. I'm much more a fan of just put a pin in for the area and have all the detail easy to find in the story entry. So if you kind of go back to the adventure, and if I go to the vineyard, I don't know if it's the vineyard or the chateau, but here's, it's laid out pretty well. I wish, this seems just, this link is a little bit, what is it? Is it the next section? Is it an encounter? It's a little confusing to me, at least. And they do have things listed at the bottom. I prefer to have my encounters and things right in the story and bolded and easy to find, but that's fine. They're here. So that's not probably my favorite way to lay things out. However, probably the most concerning issue I have with this module is, let me pull up an encounter. So this is one of the encounters I pulled up, which is 107. I think it's actually this encounter from the barn. So if you look at all these, you have an olive slime, slime horse, and olive slime zombie. If I go to click on the link here, module you're attempting to use is not loaded. This really bothered me, and that is, you need to have 5th edition foes. You need to have it purchased and opened. I actually do own it, and I could open it, but I wanted to show you, it just bothers me that nowhere is it called out. And I think the author should have noted on the Fantasy Grounds store page that, hey, in order to run this module, you really need to have that. Otherwise, you have to replace this on the fly. You got to replace it before you run the encounter. It's just, and I think that's pretty consistent through many of these adventures. So keep that in mind before you buy, is to really get the use out of this module. And I think it even says this in the PDF reviews, if you look at those on the internet, but it doesn't say it in the Fantasy Grounds module. So that to me is a kind of a glaring gap. Some of the other maps, so I'll go to the Oasis map. Again, this one's even worse in terms of the grid. It's just kind of a mess as you get in closer. So there's a grid that somebody left on the map, and this one's 30 feet. And the person that did the conversion tried to match things up, but it just doesn't work well. So the mapping there isn't the best. And the last one, Ra's Dungeon, kind of same kind of deal if you look at it. This is just an odd one. They have a cool looking maze, and I think for a PDF this would be really fun, but it doesn't translate quite as well into the Fantasy Grounds modules. So overall, I would say I ran Dead from the Above, and it was a great adventure. I think the content is awesome. And again, if you go back to the table of contents, I mean, to have 12 adventures at even call it $20, I think it's worth it. So I'm not here to suggest you shouldn't buy it. However, I am disappointed that I think they could have done a lot more to make this a really, really good module that DMs would love and really enjoy. And as it was converted, I feel like there's a fair bit of prep that you're going to have to do, which, look, I've only run one of these so far, and I think there's a reason for that. And that's because it took me a fair bit to prep. Really enjoyed it. The players loved it. So the content, great. But the way the module translates into Fantasy Grounds, I'm not a big fan of. So is it worth the $20? It is for me. I actually bought it when it was on sale for $15, and I don't regret it. But I do want you all to know some of the shortcomings that I found. So I hope you found this video helpful. I'm going to continue to do more of these. Again, like, dislike. If you like what I'm doing, great. If you don't, please tell me what would be better or what would improve this for you. So until next time, I hope to see all of you on the Fantasy Grounds forums.